Yeah.
Test 1, 2, 3.
Yes,
Yeah, yeah. Everyone got it.
Okay, got it. So that's working. Give you one quick second on the camera. I can actually,
Just kidding.
I can't push this around. I think there we go. It's the same side, it's just on the other. Okay.
all right, good evening. We are calling this regular meeting of the Providence City Plan Commission to order. It is 4:49 PM. Let's start with a roll call, starting with Noel.
Noel Sanchez.
Will Sherry.
Charlotte Lipschitz.
Dave Caldwell.
Shayan Mandracar, individual staff.
Bob Azar, staff.
Megan DeSanto, council.
And I am Michael Gazdaco, Chair. We have 2 minutes, 2 meetings of minutes to approve. The first is the April 16th regular meeting. You should have received these minutes prior to this meeting. Hopefully you've had a chance to review. If no one has any changes, edits, modifications, make a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Do we have a second? Second. Let's do, just do a voice vote. All in favor, say aye. All opposed? Abstentions? All right, we'll move on to the April 23rd special meeting. Again, they were distributed at the same time.
I'll make a motion to approve.
All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Any abstentions? The minutes pass. Moving into director's report, Bob.
Okay, so next Wednesday, we're gonna have a special meeting to review the remaining chapters of the comprehensive plan that we posted last week. We hope to have a public hearing on the comprehensive plan by this body on, I believe it's June 18th. We just confirmed that. Yeah, Tuesday, June 18th. The other thing I just wanted to mention is that we have been doing now since January more of these administrative reviews that come out of the changes in state law and the changes in our local ordinances. And so you'll see 2 things. One is at the end of the agendas, we are notifying you of all the things that are being approved by the administrative officer, all the city plan commission things. So you see the subdivisions and mergers and so forth. And then we have posted on our website, and I can, let's let's see if I can pull that up here on the screen. From the CPC's main website, and I think this links from the Downtown Design Review Committee as well. On the website, we have, just gotta find it here. Administrative review. So if you click here, then you'll see that there are, when we receive projects, we post them here. And we're also archiving things here. We don't have any yet, but so the public can view and see what's been submitted and can comment as they're being reviewed. And that's it.
All right, thank you very much, Bob. I think that's really good information to have. I did appreciate seeing the report at the end of the agenda, and I did notice that link on the webpage. All right, moving right along to our business at hand this evening. Councilman Sanchez has a finance committee hearing to go to. So we're gonna take city council referral number 3582 out of order. We're gonna take that first, and then we're gonna go through the rest of the agenda. So let's start off our meeting this evening with city council referral number 3582. It's an amendment to the zoning ordinance pertaining to cannabis sales. And with that,
I can introduce this one.
Bob will introduce it. Great, thank you.
Okay, so this is in response, this was developed by the council office, and it's in response to a change in state law from 2022 that creates different zones within the state of Rhode Island where retail sales of cannabis would be allowed. And within each zone, there could be up to 4 retail establishments. And there's a special carve out for a particular type of retailer called social equity / workers cooperative. And so we need to amend our zoning ordinance such that these things can be allowed. Right now, that's not the case. Few years ago, we had proposed to do that, but it didn't make it through the city council process. So I'm happy to say that the council office took it upon themselves to draft this. And what this would do is create 2 new categories, the cannabis retailer and the social equity workers cooperative retailer. It would change the current title of compassion center and cultivation center to hybrid cannabis retailer and cannabis cultivator. That's to comply with the terms that are used in the state law. And I think the significant thing about this is that it would allow for cannabis retailers in C2, C3, D1, and M1 zones. The straight ahead cannabis retailer would be a special use permit in C2. And then there are some use conditions that go along with these, whether they're allowed by right or by special use permit. So in general, we are fine with this structure. I think the law department did identify a couple of things where there might be some cross references to state law that need to be tweaked a little bit. So any recommendation you make to the council should involve a legal review of this, just to make sure that everything is in the proper form. But, you know, for the most part, we are comfortable with this. We do have a question about the separation distances. We did create a map that I want to bring up here, if I can find it. And so the way the state legislation is written is that you can't have a retailer within 500 feet of a school. So you can see what we've done is we've mapped out the schools and then 500-foot buffers around them. And everything remaining that's in color, this is downtown, C3, M1, and then the C2 zone. We're also showing C1. I wanted to make sure we did that because, as you all know, one of our proposals in the comprehensive plan is to merge C1 and C2 together. So if we do that, these sales would be allowed not just in C1, but also not just in C2, but also in C1. So anything left in color is where you could see these. We question whether 500 feet is the right number. And we also question whether the state law would allow us to make that larger. State law says you can go smaller. It doesn't say you can go larger. So I think that's a question we would want to put to the law department between now and when this gets to the council. So, but for our feelings that maybe these separation, the buffer zone should be a little bit bigger, we're in support of this. So I think we can hear from the sponsor now.
Councilman?
If you press and hold, and the red light goes on. You see the red light. The red light on, Troy.
Yeah, it's blinking.
Okay.
I can speak louder.
Well, we need to, we have viewers at home, so just give us a second. We need to make sure everyone at home hears you as well, because we're on Zoom as well.
Hi, everyone. Like the director said, my name is Miguel Sanchez. I am the city councilor, Ward 6. Bob gave a very comprehensive review. So just to go back a little bit on why we're here. So as most folks know, Rhode Island became a recreational state when it comes to cannabis about 2-3 years ago now. So with that, there was the establishment of a commission that is gonna administer these licenses at the state level. So luckily for us, that commission is running a little bit slow. And I say lucky because right now, if there were to be a retail shop or even a new cultivator, it would be very limited where they could open up here in the city of Providence. So with that new state law, we honestly have one of the best state laws when it comes to recreational cannabis in the nation, when it comes to equity and making sure that impacted communities are giving a fair opportunity to participate in this economic field of cannabis. So a few different community members came to me and the council president a few months ago with this major concern that when those licenses open up, an application is due immediately, and in that application, physical commercial space needs to be identified. So with that being said, we went back to look at where the current zoning allows these shops, and we realized very quickly, I have here Miguel Youngs from our city council policy staff, who has done a lot of research and work on this ordinance, where it's essentially, as it is now, almost nearly impossible for a retail cannabis shop to open up. And I say that because right now, as written, cultivator retail shops are listed as one. So with these new licenses, there's gonna be just retail shops where there won't be any cultivation or manufacturing, packaging of recreation cannabis in the city of Providence. So with the new licenses, there is an opportunity for worker co-ops and social equity licenses. We're gonna be one of 6 regions. So in our region, it's Providence, North Providence, Johnston, Lincoln, and Central Falls, and we have one co-op and one social equity
Yeah, go ahead and have this.
license between that zone. So what we're doing here is proposing amendment to this zoning ordinance to give folks, especially co-ops and socially equitable applicants to have a little bit more freedom where it comes to opening up said cannabis recreation shops. So my biggest thing on this is that after decades and decades of our communities being hurt by said cannabis regulations at the federal level and even at the state, we really want to give folks the opportunity to make up a little bit of that pain and get with modern times. We see even right now, most folks, if not a lot of folks, are still going to Massachusetts to pick up, do their shopping when it comes to recreational cannabis. So this is a big opportunity for the city of Providence. I definitely would like to see that worker cooperative be here in our capital city. This money is gonna stay in the community, that type of business plan. But yeah, I'm happy to answer any questions or concerns on this ordinance.
Thank you, Councilman. Being unfamiliar with the legislation at the state level, what is the difference between just a cannabis retailer and a social equity workers cooperative license? Is there a definition of a social equity and workers cooperative license that would help us? Because they're pretty
Yes.
different criteria as it comes, I guess, and we're making it a lot more permissive
Mhm.
for across the city for a social equity cooperative.
Yeah, so it is 2 different buckets of licenses. A worker cooperative, I believe is pretty known. Do you have questions about, you guys, everyone knows what a worker cooperative, right, is?
Yeah,
Yeah.
like a co-op.
Yeah, it's a co-op. Yeah, so really the workers will own the business and have a board that manages it and hires and whatnot.
Okay,
And then a social equity, there's certain eligibility requirements. So mostly around minority owned, women owned. There's certain income restrictions as well, from my understanding.
okay. Have you seen the staff report suggesting 1,000 feet as opposed to 500 feet? How do you feel about that recommendation?
Yeah, I mean, that's something we would have to vet a little bit more, just because as it is right now, 500 feet. I mean, that's what it is for liquor stores. So that's kind of what we've been basing it off as comparison as a state law. But we could definitely do a map of 1,000 feet and see how much more that impacts. But there is some concerns, especially around what is this over here? The north end, even Atwell's a little bit, there might be some more limited options. But that's something we can definitely take a look at a little bit more.
Have you had a chance to look at the
Yeah.
map here? I mean, this is a pretty broad swath of the city that these will be permissive in, by right for retail for a social equity or workers cooperative license. Now, I know right now, there's only gonna be one license issued by the Cannabis Control Commission, but I'm thinking like good policy is forward-looking and not thinking about what we have today. Whereas if, this expands further, is that what we want? We want as many cannabis shops popping up from here, Or do we want to have some sort of mechanism for review, like a
Mhm.
special use permit attached to certain zones? Like basically every commercial corridor now is we're proposing in the comprehensive plan
Mhm.
updates. Which you guys will, you and your colleagues at the city council will have to review and approve. Changing all the C1 to C2. So we'll have C2 throughout the city. Commercial corridors throughout neighborhoods will all be C2. Is that something that the city council is looking for?
Yeah, so we're definitely aware of all the moving parts, especially as you mentioned, the comp plan. So I mean, this is something that we're still talking as counselors. This is a ordinance as is that's supported right now by the council president, myself. We're the introducers of it, the main sponsors. But we're still talking to our colleagues to get a little bit more input. But as of it is right now, the conversations I've had, most folks are comfortable with the 500 buffer from schools because of what I mentioned. That's what it is for liquor stores right
But there
now.
is a special use permit component to liquor stores,
Mhm.
whereas you're proposing a large chunk of these licenses, half of the licenses say would be allowed by right
Mhm.
in any of these zones, if it passes as drafted.
Mhm.
And you're saying that's totally fine also. Is that no check or balance on
right.
it? They get the license, they're allowed to open.
Outside of the 500-foot buffer.
Yeah.
Correct. As it is right now, that is correct.
Yeah.
We believe that is an appropriate distance from schools for said retail shops.
Right, but part of them will be required in C2 zones to apply for a special use permit. So a cannabis retailer will be required to apply for a special use permit. The social equity and workers cooperative license retailer anywhere that's highlighted here would be allowed by right. And that's what's proposed in your drafting. I just want to make sure that's really what the intent is.
Mhm.
No check or balance on that at all.
No, that's correct.
Okay.
Did you want to add it on to it?
Yeah, I guess just for the record, for everyone hearing my voice here, my name is Miguel Youngs. I work for the policy staff. I did a lot of work on this ordinance. I just want to throw a couple more details in here. I want to highlight that the 500-foot buffer, just so it's stated, only applies to cannabis retailer when it comes to any operation that's growing or cultivating. That's not changing. That stays at 1,000 feet, and that stays limited to light industrial zones. One thing that I appreciate with this map is it includes C1 zones, because that's taking into consideration all the work we're doing with the comp plan. That was not really considered to this extent while drafting it. We were dealing with the way the zoning ordinance is as written. I think the motivation behind granting social equity, worker cooperative applicants this sort of by right access is, by and large, these small businesses have much less capital. They're not going to be backed by potentially out-of-state funders. It's going to be people from the community, and specifically social equity applicants applies to those directly impacted by the war on drugs or by just cannabis laws over the years. And this is actually spelled out in the state law, whether you can even be a relative of someone who's incarcerated for a cannabis offense, which is now legal. So that's even more specific to what social equity applicant stands for. And I know that the belief that the council was trying to do was match the spirit of the state law without really trying to expand it. And that was both from that social equity perspective. I mean, the state law went in and specified this for a reason, because Rhode Island wanted a lot of the benefits of this industry to stay in the state and in the communities, especially the communities impacted. And also they wanted to stay aligned with the sort of economic benefits and economic motivations. So I appreciate all your feedback here. I think it's really good to hear. I think the council is really going to appreciate it. I think the report that you put out.
Like all the C1 zones that we're proposing,
Right.
again, we're forward thinking, we're planners, we're
Yep.
trying to see into the future. And we're proposing that all those turn into C2, and then those would be by right for a portion of these retail licenses. Now I know the manufacturing, that doesn't change. there are also a lot of restrictions on the manufacturing at the state law level or growing cultivation. There has to be
Right.
fencing, cameras, security. It can't be seen like that. I know that. Because that's been in place for a long time. We're talking about retail where someone can walk in and, you know, purchase cannabis just like they can purchase liquor. Which is totally fine. Just making sure that we want to think it all the way through and not have unintended consequences of it. You know, like, would you consider, you know, special use permit for cannabis retailers in all the zones they're allowed in, and then only in the social equity workers, special use permits in C2, but allowed by right in C3, D1, and M1. I mean, I think that's more aligned with like what I think is probably good policy, but you guys are the policymakers. I'm just the planner.
Yeah, no, I would say we're definitely open to feedback. Obviously, the big question mark is if my colleagues and I do combine the two commercial districts. But I mean, that's something we're definitely open to, and we'll continue talking and collaborating with different folks.
Okay. The other commissioners, you have questions? I don't want to take up all the time here.
So do we have a map of the current allowable places where they
Retail is
could?
currently not allowed.
M1,
We don't have any language for.
do we have that? Or do you have that?
So
Where it would be allowed?
right now, cultivation and compassion center are allowed in M1 by right and C3 by special use permit.
But no retail.
Well, there's a little caveat is that compassion centers are allowed to have retail. So we have one compassion center in Providence, and that's called the Slater Center, and that is allowed to be a retail establishment. But we don't allow for a standalone retail establishment anywhere in the city right now.
And then just to clarify, also the social equity workers co-op is actually a co-op incorporated under the cooperative law. The cooperative corporation.
Yep, Rhode Island General.
Commissioner Sanchez, if I could just, with your question, I think that Councilman Sanchez alluded to this, that Providence is grateful of the slow-moving regulatory nature of the commission that the state law set up. The law as passed provides that no city or town can ban cannabis retailers without a referendum put to a vote. So I guess in some respects, the fact that retailers aren't currently allowed is out of compliance with the state law. Although I don't think it's a concern yet because of the slow-moving regulatory process.
Because there's no licenses to give yet, but.
Right, because there's
As
no
soon as they're all
licenses that have yet been awarded.
Right. Dave, Will, Charlotte, any questions
I
for
guess
them?
I'm a little confused about the one license. So the one license that will be issued is a new license. But we already have some cannabis retailers in the city, but they're called something different.
Compassion centers.
Okay.
And they have cultivation and retail,
So the
and
big
they are only
center
allowed
near The
in
post office.
M1 and C3 right now, correct? Yeah, that's
Okay.
the Slater Center. That's the compassion center.
Okay.
Do you want to?
So if I could, technically, the existing compassion centers are allowed to be converted to a different type of retailer for a fee paid to the state. And then the additional licenses would be, well, the other licenses would be in addition to that, with 4 licenses in each of the 6 regions allowed. Okay, so immediately there will be 4 licenses and. No. There wouldn't immediately be 4 licenses. The state is allowed to issue up to 4 licenses in each region. There are 6 regions in the state.
Right, and Providence shares a region with Lincoln, Central Falls, North Providence, and Johnston. So in those other towns plus Providence, or Central Falls City, there will be 4 total licenses.
And I would just like to add, I mean, there's a possibility that we don't get any. So I mean, we want to think a little forward. Just personally speaking, I would love to see one of the co-op or social equities. That's kind of the foundation of why we're doing this. Obviously, if one of the other commercial licenses, normal ones, gets submitted, finds a property, then we want to also give them more flexibility in where they can open up shop.
Okay, commissioners, anything else before we open up the
I
public?
think one thought I had was about spacing, looking down the road. You know, eventually, if there are a lot of licenses given, I know there are some cities and towns in Massachusetts where a lot of licenses went out, and then the retailers actually went out of business because there's too much competition. Would spacing
Like a
be
radius
possible?
around.
Yeah, I noticed that there's
other-
3/4 of a mile for the hybrid cannabis retailer. Could we do something similar so that there's not too much competition, you know, looking way down the road? You know, one on every corner like a Dunkin' Donuts would be trouble for the retailers themselves.
Yeah, so I mean, that's something that we're definitely having in the back of our mind. But it really is up to the state. They're the ones that issue the licenses. I would think right now that commission is seeing some of those difficulties, that oversaturation in Massachusetts is definitely very real right now. So I personally don't think they will open up the state portal for additional licenses for a very long time. I mean, we passed this, I believe, in 2021, and the state still has not opened up the application portal for these current applications.
I guess the consensus is that there'd be some research that needed to be done to see if that's legal under the state law. Adding in a radius restriction of, you know, similar to the schools or something like that from other retailers. But that might be something that we can recommend that the law department look into while they formulate the recommendation to the city council. I think it's not a bad idea to delve into.
Yeah.
Anything else for the councilman before we open up to the public? All right. Thank you for your time, Councilman.
Thank you for the opportunity, board.
All right, with that,
Mr. Chair, if you don't mind, I think I'm gonna have to close Zoom and reopen it because
well, then we're going to pause this meeting
2 minutes.
for 2 minutes and we will call it back to order